how this integration thing goes. Oh, they got me in. They got me in. Oh, I'm over there. I think I should have waited before I did that. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Where is that? It's right here. All right, if anybody's on when you come in, give me a minute because we technically gonna start at 12 o'clock. I just wanted to sync the YouTube portion of it in. So I see a few people in there. So give us to 12 o'clock is when we're going to officially start. However, if anybody got something for me, because it's been a minute before I've seen y'all over here on YouTube, man. You can drop it in the chat for me. Ooh, 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 ooh. Bam, 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 bam. I have to go between this window and this window. Yeah. I think. So we get started in about 13 minutes. I'm early. Early. Let me go back to the YouTube. So YouTube people, hold on for a minute. We're gonna get started at 12 noon. But put something in the chat for me. If you should be able to hear me. It should be cool. I know it's a slight delay.
Got my phone and broke my S Pen.
Really?
I use my old S Pen.
You know, that's not the remote control S Pen.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
Have the 9?
Nope. Old school 8. So do you even use it?
Not as a remote control.
That's what it's for. That's why.
Yeah. Just stand right next to the phone. Don't need the remote control. Like a what?
Go far away from the phone and use it.
You did what? You just can't speak going on the phone?
Be like,
No. The add these features so they can charge you.
oh yeah, 1150. Hey, what's up, Monica? What's happening? What's happening? What up? What up, Corinne? What up? Man, my bad, bro. You emailed me. No. I gotta figure out, Corinne, what possibly would be a webinar where I got into such information, man. Hold on, I'm gonna go check the recordings real fast. Let me see. I don't think. Well, you want some archive classics. Let's see, recordings, and let me search for galactic. See, I don't have that in there. Not under that title, where I know I've done webinars and I brung up that PowerPoint and talked about it. But I don't, let me see. What about outer space? So what was the videos you asked me for, Corinne? Because I see programming outer space. What was it that you asked for? Debo Byte. That's a horrible lag. Monica, you off work? You always at work. You be grinding. I mean, you always at work. All right, cool. You're sitting there picking the email. Rudy, what's happening? What's going on? So we're gonna get started in about 8 minutes. We get started in 8. Programming numbers. Programming numbers. Was it called that? Programming numbers? Let me see something, man. Let me see. I have nothing with the title numbers, not saved in the archives. So what's up, Tawana? Not in the archives. I don't have nothing with numbers. I know I would never title anything dealing with numbers either. I don't think I would. It's programming your inner space, that's due. Then I came back behind that with programming outer space. And you know what? Programming your outer space just may have something to do with the whole galactic activation material you was looking for. Let me see. Hold on. Woo! Man, if you on, let me see. If you on Zoom. Let me see. How can I share my screen? Can I do a screen share? Just my screen. wonder how that's gonna work. I ain't gonna mess with it because I'm a new guy. Hold on. Let me see something. There you go. I see some flaws on it, but I ain't go I ain't go super deep on them. Some of the more gangster stuff I didn't do. But nevertheless, I got programming in outer space. Let me get out of this. So we get started in 5 minutes. If you're on YouTube with us, we get started in 5 minutes. Bear with us here. Bear with me. Programming the Matrix, the spirit of film. Ooh-wee. Classic. Spirit of film for sure. Let me, I think I was telling you I found that the other, like a few weeks ago. Let me look for that. Hold on. Spirit of film. That's not in here, man. I got spiritual business is in here. Where the heck did I see that at? I gotta search for Spirit of Film. That might have been on another platform, and it seemed like it's on a Google Drive of mine somewhere. So you emailed it, Programming the Matrix, Quantum Numbers Exposed. Okay, I got you on that. So Programming the Matrix, bam, I got that. Here, man, I'm going to do y'all a solid, man. I'm going to drop that link in the YouTube for you so you can get that, bro. Bam. Copy and paste that. Yeah, I see your email. Copy and paste that link. That's Programming the Matrix. That way I put it in there so everybody can get it that's listening in. All right. In 2 minutes, we get started. Yeah. That joint I don't think we was on joint meeting. And so I can't, let me go see something on my drive. Cause I saw it somewhere. Sub to the, where the heck would the Spirit of Film be at? Let me look on this drive. That's the vision board. Man, let me see. Spirit of Film. And on this one, Let me search my email, man. No, you know what I got? I have, and that was October 2019. But I think he had to do that before that. I got the slides to it, but I don't know Spirit of Film Live PDF, then this is the presentation. I'm looking at the slides to it, and I sent him that. That was back in October of 2019. That thing is older than that, though. Like, he did that, like, seemed like that was 2013, 14. Yeah. I gotta ask Jew, do he got the audio to that, the recording to that? Cause I don't have it, man. Who knew? You in Cincinnati? All right, man. Oh, shit, man. You was with me on Blog Talk? You go way back. All right, man. Let's get this party started real fast. Let me see where we at in Zoom. Let's go Corinne over there. Tawana, Vivian, Robert in Vegas. What's happening? And I got some people in YouTube land. All right, so, man, welcome to our Sunday webinar. Today is really a special day for us. Because we got a bonus literally inside of our schedule, but I got my Airbnb manager, my partner. She put in more work than she worked like an immigrant, for real. You know how they say Jamaicans, you have like 10 jobs? Well, we talking Jamaican who got 10 jobs to be working, you know what I mean? But I bring you Toya King. What's up? What's happening? You over here. Yeah. No. That's because this is, you can't look right there. Yeah, you can't look right there anyway because it's, you just can't look right there.
Okay.
All right, so you're right there. All right, what's good?
I'm fantastic. This is great.
Good. So we're talking about building wealth through Airbnb. Let me give a quick backdrop, and then you give us some backdrop as well. I don't know, I guess it was a little over a year ago. Was out in the field, and my partner had said she went to some type of investors meeting with an investor who was bringing in his people, and you were there. She came back, and she was talking about getting started in Airbnb. And this was a Mercury retrograde too, y'all. And I'm like, oh shit, should I do this and whatnot? And I just knew it possibly wasn't the best time to do it, but I didn't want to be superstitious and scare people, especially if they new to me, they don't know, right? So I didn't say anything. But nevertheless, that's where I met you. So give us a backdrop of who LaToya King be. That's driving me crazy.
Okay. Well, I was born in I'm just kidding. I'm a jokester.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I just, not a job individual. The just over broke doesn't appeal to me, ever. Not a limited individual. The limits that I have are the ones that I put on my own self and mind. So every day I do my best to break from those.
Right.
So I'm willing to try most anything at least once, you know, even if it's just to say that I did it and that I can speak from experience, because I know most people would shut this camera off if Noble introduced me and just said, this is some random schmo off the street. They're going to teach us about Airbnb. You're going to ask me my credentials. So I'll let you know my credentials are that I started this in May 2014. And literally it was I was on Facebook Marketplace. and I posted an apartment I had for rent. I had a recent vacancy due to my tenants having expanded their family. They got pregnant. They knew they needed more room, so they moved. I went ahead and posted on Facebook Marketplace, and one of my former network marketing colleagues saw my post and said, "Why don't you just post it on Airbnb?" I had no idea what it was. I was like, okay, so I went, found the app, downloaded it, took some shots of the empty place I had and posted it, $20 a night, and started getting a lot of inquiries all at once. And I was like, oh, and I knew at that point that I had posted it for too little. So there started my journey.
Hold on. So back us up. So you had a tenant. So now we got to be like, well, you already had real estate though. So now you got to tell us, what do you mean
how
you
I
had
got
a
there?
tenant? Yeah. Because now you're saying you had a
want
tenant.
that story?
So I wanted that too, but since you said it. But
okay.
How did you had a tenant? What do you mean you had a tenant? So you were already in the real estate space as a landlord?
So I'll give it to you like this. When I was at OSU, Ohio State University. I know there's other OSU, but at Ohio State University, and I spent 5 years there. I was a super senior. So by my super senior year, I think I moved to it was a one bedroom, sort of, not really. It was really like a studio, but they had this curtain that divided it. So I remember sitting at my desk and I calculated how much money I had spent on rent for the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, I think it was the 6th year that I looked at it, and it came out to like $22,000. And I said, okay, that was like $300 and something a month. And that's great. Most people are like, that's fantastic. But I was like, no, because I spent $22,000. I will never see that $22,000 again.
Right.
And I thought about the down payment you could have put on stuff like that. But, our society teaches us to make payments and not pay things in full. This society in America. In other countries, it's like there's no credit for real. If you have it, then you get it. If you don't have it, then you don't get it, and you save up till you do have it. So it forces you to work like a beast. There is no option for that. In America, there's an option, or so they think. So anyhow, and I was born here, so don't get me wrong. I was born here, raised here, but my family is from Jamaica. So I have different values as far as that goes because I watched my mom and my grandmother and other family members, how they work, how they came here at one suitcase and then multiplied what they had. So anyhow, after making that discovery of the $22,000 I had spent, I said, I'm done with this. And literally, it all happened very quickly because I had picked up the Robert Kiyosaki's book, Who Stole My Money? Or
I've never heard of that one.
I think that's the one. I'm probably tearing up the title. I knew about Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read that one.
Right.
Get it on audiobook so you don't have an excuse for not reading it because it can be read to you in your car, and then you won't be so frustrated with traffic if you're sitting in it. But it was just, he breaks things down for you so simply. He teaches you about assets and liabilities, assets putting money in your pocket, liabilities taking money out. So simple. I was like, that's easy concept. So when I read Who Stole My Money, I believe, next thing I ran into a guy. He was trying to do similar things. And September 2007, we went to a Robert Kiyosaki seminar, paid the $500, and for those 3 days sat there. And I always try to pick up at least 3 things from wherever I go or whoever I'm talking to or whatever conversation I'm having. Because if I can't pick up 3 things that I learned, then it's probably not a conversation worth having. Because you can get a lot of things from people no matter what subject they're talking about. And you could teach yourself things from their lessons and then from your own lessons that you let them know about, you can also be learning. So, the 3 things that helped me at that seminar were, 1, they said that, in order, I'll try to go in order. The first thing, they did a little exercise, and I think there was like 60 of us in the room. And in the 60 that were there, they said, you guys have a lunch work assignment. So you only had an hour to do this. So it means you had to do it. It wasn't no putting it off. You were going to go eat, but you were going to focus on this. And they said, each group, each table, you guys together, first let's ask a question to you guys. How many people get those offers that say, transfer your balance from your credit card to this credit card, 0% interest for 6 months? How many people get that? So everybody's like, Everybody in the room raised their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they said, now, keep your hands up if you actually used it. And we was all like, no, because we don't want to get in the worst debt. I mean, that's a scam, it's a gimmick, you know, after 6 months, they're going to, I'm only paying 7 or 8 or 9% now, and they're going to jump it up to 20. Like, that's just how we thought. And they're like, you're throwing money in the trash. I'm like, what? And so essentially they started the whole thing off by saying, we're going to raise $250,000 in this room in the next hour. Like, no way. I was intrigued. If I was falling asleep, which I wasn't, because it was a phenomenal 3 days, but I was just like, I want to see how they do this. They're going to raise $250,000 in the next hour. I was all ears. So they gave us a script, and the two things that we focused on the script was, when you contacted the credit card companies, you're going to say two things. One, you're going to get credit if you don't already have it, or you're going to increase the credit that you already have by asking. Mm-hmm. Real simple. But this is how you ask, and they taught you how to ask. The way you asked for more credit was, I have a big real estate project. Their ears already open, and we want to use your credit card to make all the purchases. Mm-hmm. And all they're hearing is cha-ching because they have collateral. You know what I mean? They know it's backed on something. You're not just randomly buying shoes or clothes or something like that. So, and then they said, and we're also asking that you lower the monthly rate. So if you already have a pre-existing card, lower that monthly rate or ask for that 0% interest or whatever. So we all did our homework. And I believe after lunch, when they came and they were adding up each total on the table, mm-hmm. we had hit 280,000. That's how I remember it anyway. And it was because one guy in particular, he had such good credit. You know, the scores range, was it like 300 all the way to 850 or something like that? Okay. So anyway, he had a high enough score that we were asking, like, well, how much can we ask for? I was like, anything you want. They'll just tell you no, but they'll probably tell you what you can ask for. So I'd ask for the highest that you can. And so this guy asked for $100,000, and they gave it to him. And I was like, wow, ask and it shall be given to you, right? So we hit the 280,000. I was like, in an hour, all together. We don't know anybody else in that room but the people you brought. And we made 280,000, and it's magical, but that's only if you know how to use it. So that was the first thing I learned. So I was able by myself to raise about, I think, $10,000. And then the next thing they taught us was, how do you get your after repair value, the ARV? How do you get that as high as you can get it, and how is that calculated? And they basically told us this. It was real simple. You're going to add three numbers together. You're going to add the purchase price, mm-hmm. the labor, and the materials. PAM. P-A-M. Purchase price. Oh, good. PAM. PLM. I'm sleepy already. You see my eyes, but PLM. Yeah. Purchase price, thing of ARV. So purchase price, labor, and the materials. So when you add that up, they told us that essentially the person who comes in and decides how much the house is worth, after looking at other rates, you know, around the neighborhood to see what other things sold for, they're pretty much adding up those three numbers. And that's literally what they did. So the third thing that I learned was you have to be embarrassed by your offer. So essentially they said, if you offer a price and the seller immediately takes it, they said, that means that you left money on the table. And I was like, okay. I mean, just those nuggets were dropped, and this is how you got your ARV up too. I'm sorry, there's actually a fourth thing that's kind of mixed with the second thing. They told us to get something called the National Estimator. So back then it was like a book, and you're trying to figure out how much does it cost for your particular property to be rehabbed. And so for us, it was like $25,000. It was two sides of a duplex, $12,500 a piece, basically. So all that the appraiser came in and added was, he said, okay, so you spent, and you didn't have to actually spend the $25,000 that the book said you'd estimate at, because we didn't spend the $25,000. I think we might have spent $10,000 because we charged ourselves and we were doing it ourselves, which in the beginning I recommended just so that you can know what to look for and things, so that you're not ripped by contractors that come in. You know exactly what the work entails. You'll know what to see, what to look for. You know, because sometimes contractors do the job and they forget stuff, and you know how to, like, hey, man, you forgot this pressure release valve on this water heater. I'm not saying you have to be the person who can put it in, but you got to know that it's missing, you know, stuff like that. Right. So anyhow, he ended up adding the three numbers up, and he literally was like, it's worth $70,000. I mean, We bought it for 25 and it was worth 70. And I was like, wow, just like that. Like, I felt like from the $280,000 that we raised in that room, I kind of did like my mini version of it just by putting some work into it. So that was pretty amazing. And I did say to myself, because there was 2 duplexes, we offered half for both. One they wanted $50,000 for, the other one they wanted $38,000 for, and we ended up offering them half for both. The first one for the $38,000, straight out was like, nope, not doing it. When you guys are serious with your offer, let us know. The other one took it right away, and the first thing that came to my mind was, not that I got it, and this is my first purchase, we left money on the table. Right. So that's the inception story.
And what year is this again?
Purchasing the property. That was 2007, 8.
Ooh.
That was right when the market was going down. And the funny thing is, and I'm telling you this lesson because these are the lessons that I live by and that have served me so well. I used to go to World Harvest Church, and Pastor Rod Parsley said something, and it stuck. I never forgot it. Someone asked him, you know, we're in the middle of recession. So it was right at that point when I was purchasing the property. He said, we're in the middle of recession. Right. What do you tell people, you know, or what do you do now that this recession is happening? And he was like, that's a good question. He's like, not participate. Oh, that blew my mind. I was looking at him like, I like him. We're going to do that, Toya. We're not going to participate. So Toya didn't know anything that was going on. I didn't know the market was bad. Right. I didn't know nothing about no movie called The Big Short. I saw it later. Like, all these things were happening. It could have been like tornadoes and tsunamis and stuff. And I was just in my little bubble, not participating in that and just doing what I had to do and still making money. Because the area that I am is, for lack of a better term, is hood. Right. Okay, it's getting better, but, you know, when you get those kind of prices and you can still charge Airbnb rates, that's where you're making all your money, you know. So that's kind of the,
gotcha.
Yeah.
So Kiyosaki, you had a 3-day event. You learned some things about credit. You raised some credit. You get $10K. And then you end up partnering with some people that's there on the purchase of a duplex?
I went with people who I had met before I left to go to that seminar. Okay. So, yeah, but he and I ended up deciding, yes, he'll do the labor portion, and I'll do the front-end financing portion because I had the credit.
That's a jewel.
You know, I had a 710 score. That's all I had. I didn't have any money for real.
710 score, but that got you in the game.
Yeah. So he he actually had cash. He put in $2,000 when we first purchased the property because they usually want about 10% down. Right. So he put that $2,000 in cash. Right. And I just had the 710 credit score. So Fifth Third Bank lent us the 25 to purchase the property. And then that was Halloween.
They don't even lend on nothing that's $50K and less now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, $50K is the new minimum now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We were fortunate at that point.
Wow.
And then we refinanced, once the ARV came back, we refinanced in April. It was April with National City. And then PNC bought out National City or whatever happened. So that's how that happened.
So that's dope. So you go to an event, and then you raise money off your credit card, use the credit card or use the credit as the financing, and then you have a handyman who's going to do the material labor, and then that will be his equity inside of the property.
Yes, that was the beginning plan.
Yes. And then, so that's duplex 1. Yes. And then you got another duplex.
Yes, so then May.
Right next door to each other, by the way.
Yes.
So she's a buyback to blocker because she clearly owns duplexes next to each other. But go ahead. So
when we refinanced, there also was a clearance on our block. A whole block behind us was clearance. And I say that because it was 13 duplexes. So we went to the auction at the church on the corner down the street. There was probably 100 individuals. And there was obviously some investor and his real estate agent in there. And they ended up buying back like 7 of the properties, I would say, and the rest of them were kind of distributed with local neighbors. Right. And but that was my first time being in an auction. So I sat there, we're sitting in the front row, and they 10,000, all that stuff. And the highest one sold. It was the first one. The highest one sold for $15,000. Wow. I know people who spend more on their car. $15,000 for a duplex, and then the lowest one sold for $7,000. I was like, that's less than one of the cars that I had. So I said, oh my gosh. And these are assets that are going to appreciate if you know what you're doing. Right. You know what I mean? And even if you don't know what you're doing, somebody else will always. So you can always unload. But that was my experience at the auction. And we ended up not getting any of the 13. because then the one, 6 months after they flat out rejected us, we negotiated. Remember, that was the one that was 38. We offered 19,000. They said, get serious. Now 6 months have passed. Time to banks is like gold, because as those months pass, they can't leave that stuff on their books. Banks don't get into property to own property.
Right.
They get into property to own that money that is coming from that property. They want to get that interest, and that's why your amortization schedule is looking the way it does. It's really heavy on the interest in the beginning and then heavy on the principal at the end, because just in case you suck at paying stuff back, we're gonna get paid anyway.
Right.
That's why you end up paying 3 times as much, because they already got 1.5, if they're lucky, maybe 2 times what you paid. Hence why they can do the foreclosure and then not care if they have to lower it lower. So just so you know. But yeah, they ended up, we said, we'll give you $12,000. So we lowered our offer $7,000, and guess what happened? They started negotiating with us. And I said, who would have thought one winter would have brought them to this? And this is when I was learning these concepts. And I'm like, man, it just takes you reading some free books at the library or buying them from half-price books. You can learn all this stuff, and it's amazing, because now you know how to play the game. It's Monopoly, right? If you know what you're doing. So you know the rules of the game, then you can play. And so we ended up bidding them. They were going back and forth. They finally, I think we bought it for like 17 grand. So we ended up saving 2,000 by waiting 6 months. So.
Gotcha. Now, do you have tenants for them? Like, because now you got duplexes. So now what are you doing with them?
The first duplex, so without going into the story, because Noble already kind of knows the story, it's long, it's a book, so I'll have to write it and share it with you all. But the first duplex, I lived in one side, and the person who was supposed to partner lived on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
We got into conflict in 2008, on 9/11/2008, I had to file an eviction, and then that case ran all the way to August of 2009. Okay. And in there are the pages of a book. So he's ousted. Right. Okay. And I think I waited like maybe 2 or so years. I didn't have anybody in there because I was trying to like repair in my mind and just in everything else. Like, I want to make sure this doesn't happen again. I was school of the hard knocks, so I was learning as I went. And I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get fined or feed for stuff he didn't do, you know, because things that contractors do wrong can kill people. And when I was talking to the city, because during the case we had to bring them into it, and as long as I gave them all the information of this contractor, then they weren't going to charge me 5 or 6 times the fees. And just in case you don't know, if you are going to the city and you're getting a permit to get electrical put throughout the home, the fee back then anyway was like $125. And then if you didn't pass inspection, they charge another like $75. So just imagine you got 120, just 100, just to make the number easier, and they're just going to charge you 6 times the cost of the permit you never got. That's $600 just for electrical. You still HVAC, plumbing, whatever, the carpentry, because even Lowe's at the time was charging $75 to install a door on your front door or something. I'm like, what? You charging me? The fee, the permit. You had to get a permit to install an exterior door on your house. I was like, man, I would put some curtains on this front door, and you can't say nothing to me about it, but you can charge me $75. I said, no, we're not doing that for a permit. No way. So anyway, I digress, as I will throughout this whole taping. So bring me back. But yeah, that's kind of what happened there. And so now I'm on my own. And then once I discovered, I got some tenants in there. And the last tenants were in 2014. And then from there, 2014 to now, has been Airbnb. So I've done Airbnb on the side right next to me. And I've also done Airbnb inside my own home. I've done the private room upstairs. I've done the shared room on the couch, which is a futon. And then my grandma laughs every time I say someone's coming for the shared room. She's always like, shared room, Toya? Is that the couch? She knows it's the couch, but she just gets a kick out of it that somebody's paying me to stay on my couch. And then if I get a big enough ask and someone wants to stay for a little bit of time and it's like $1,000 or whatever, and I'm like, I go camp out with my friends. I go car camping, which for you that don't know, it's when you sleep in your car, because I have a Honda Element, which I love dearly, and it transforms into whatever I need at the time. So you do what you got to do to get where you're trying to go. essentially.
So you're saying that, and so to answer this question, LS Cherry, Toya gets started going through a Kiyosaki event, raise the credit, call the credit cards, raise their credit. They end up partnering with someone who she brings to the event, and then was able to go out and grab a duplex, 2 duplexes, right? And one of the unique things is being able to have someone give their sweat equity and skill in return for you not to put up, no money, especially if you got the finance, you got the credit where they just finance, the bank will give you the finances in your name. So now it's like no money out your pocket and you don't have to pay to get it fixed because this person's bringing a skill set and they're trading it for a piece of the pie. So super duper dope. I've done that before as well. So then with the building, now she goes through, because the partner was living on one side of the duplex and you're in one side, there's a dispute that's there, the partner is out, and now all of a sudden you decide, you know what? Time goes past, I can Airbnb that side of the duplex, and not only can I Airbnb that side of the duplex, I think what I just heard was you also decided to Airbnb your own space that you live in and say, I can go sleep in my car if I have to because I'll get some extra cash flow by renting my place out. Did I just hear that correctly?
You did.
Yeah, that's grit. A woman that's sleeping in the car is grit. That's like the rare few female truck drivers that I see out in the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare. You know what I mean?
It's an adventure, right? You guys been camping before? I know I've been. I used to go to a Christian camp called Mount Long Camp, and it was they bused in New York inner city children to Pennsylvania. So they cut off all kind of electronics. You just had to learn nature, rock climbing, the farm specialist. I was a hobby house specialist one year and the dance specialist another year. So they would tap into all those things untapped by all of the electronic, we're always plugged in. So they'd make them unplug and it forces them to become one with themselves and talk to people. And so, and this is kids from 6 all the way to 13 years old. They have 4 different units, or 3 units, junior. The middles were 9 and 10-year-olds, and the senior unit was 12 to 13, something like that. Right. So yeah, they had to unplug, and that's how we got, we camped, and we were in tents, and then sometimes we were in teepees. So in my car, it didn't seem so bad because you're protected by at least the 4 sides of metal. They had bears and all that other stuff. It's nervous when you just have a little sheet called a tent or a teepee. So me sleeping in the car was an upgrade. Because little do you know, I sleep on my floor when I'm at my house. It's a habit. We won't even get into why I sleep on my floors, but I think I'm military without having ever served in the military. I just have that. That's just who I am, so.
So here's a question for you. How would someone get started in Airbnb that just has a little amount of money? Let's just say they just got enough to go to IKEA furnish the place, because we know if you're going to get an Airbnb, you at least have to furnish the place. But that's all I got is just furnishing money and, of course, a rent deposit and, first month's rent, right? I just got enough. What's the approach? What do you recommend?
Okay. I'm not going to answer that question with an answer as much as I'll just tell you what I did. When I first started, remember I told you someone had just moved out. So we were trying to rent the place furnished. They didn't really need everything, so I kind of put some of those off to the side or sold it. I'm all about the bust market. I call it the buy, upgrade, sell, trade. So everything that I buy is pretty much brand used all day long, all day strong. I let somebody else pay for this desk. They paid $100 for this desk. They use it for 6 months or whatever. They see a better desk, a nice shiny object over there. I let them go buy that shiny object. They turn around and sell this $100 desk for $40. I say, what's your firm price? They say $30. They just want to get rid of it. Now I have this $100 desk that I paid $30 for. I get tired of it. But guess what the difference is? I don't go incur another debt over there. The $30 that I spent on this desk, I know it's worth $100. I screenshot it on eBay and show them, hey, I'm selling this desk for $60. I know someone's going to talk me down to $50 or $40 or whatever. And some people take it. And I just doubled my income. And I take that and I reinvest it. Now, back in the day when I first started, I didn't have furniture. This is exactly how I started. I posted. I was like, we gotta have somewhere to sleep because not everybody's a floor sleeper like me. So I took one of my futons I had next door and I brought it over. So that was a bed. Then I called my friend up. She had a air mattress, which if you don't know, the inception story of Airbnb is air mattresses, like literally. Brian and his friend, when they were living in Sacramento or California, don't get me to quote in the wrong city, but in California, they actually had, his friend had 3 air beds in his closet. So when the Democratic National Convention came to town and they saw there was an overflow and an influx of people trying to come but nowhere to stay, they made some little quick website. I think they called it Air Beds and Breakfast, like written out. And they had 3 air beds. And if you go to headquarters, apparently there are 3 pictures, or there's a picture of 3 people who originally stayed there, and they stayed on air beds. I think one was in the kitchen, one was in the bathroom, not bathroom, one was in the living room, kitchen, I think, and maybe the other bedroom, and maybe him and his roommate bunked up. But whatever it was air beds that they used. So I borrowed an air bed from my friend, and that's literally how I started, $20 a night.
$20 a night.
My thing is,
futon and air mattress.
Yeah, futon and air mattress. And then whatever you have, because guaranteed, this is what I learned, I think it was called Direct Buy. There was a company that they show you little videos, they're trying to get you to directly buy from them and take out the middleman, all this stuff. And the video opened up and said, every American probably American, has $3,000 to $5,000 worth of stuff that they don't even use. So now you have all these things like Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp and LetGo and Mercari and Poshmark for the clothing and jewelry. And, you know, there's all these ways to make money. Nobody should be broke because you have an overflow of things. And if you know how to pair them together, you know how to price them, you know how to show the value, which is the biggest thing. Don't focus on the price, you focus on the value to see if you can bundle stuff. That's how a lot of cell phone companies ate up all our money. You go in there to pay $300 for a phone and you come out paying $500. Why is that? Because you bought a bundle of all this extra stuff you probably never going to use. So learning how to do all that stuff. But if you're talking about starting, you just need to start. You just need to post. I can show you some of these people who get on Airbnb. Literally, I swear to you, they're like, I need some money for next weekend. So they go and they take a picture of the house. As it stands, not clean. Some of them had messes on the bed and the cat and the dogs over stuff. And you're looking like, and they have reviews. I'm like, how is that possible? How is that possible? But they're charging like $20, $30, and the people who don't care will take it. And I'm just amazed. So my thing is clean up your space that you already have. I don't care if you're renting an apartment from the landlord. I will tell you this, and this is basically I'm the excuse buster. You haven't met me yet, but when you do, anytime you give me something, I'm gonna find a way to show you how you could do it. So when you decide that you don't want to do it, because you don't want to do it, not because you can't do it. Okay, so it's a decision. And I totally lost what I was gonna tell you just now. Oh, yes. Last summer, we're in 2020. Summer of 2019, I go on LetGo. I find a girl. Now, you're going to see this, so you can actually do this as a trial run if you want. If you need help, you can call me and contact me directly. I can walk you through it. But so many people were trying to sublease. People are trying to get out their lease early, and they don't want to have to pay $800 for 2 more months each, $1,600 for the summer. So they posted their stuff on Facebook Market, LetGo, OfferUp, whatever. So I find this girl on LetGo. She has a 700 square foot 1-bedroom apartment, and they newly remodeled it. She was the first one to live there. It was for a year. And here's the funny thing. Rapport is everything. Your attitude is everything. I met her, and I walked through probably 6 or 7 others. When I went to her and I met her, she walked me through the apartment. She had really good style, and I always encourage people hey, you should do interior decorating. That's what I do. You should do this. You do really good at that. Just encouragement. So we built rapport quickly, so much that I took her to a yoga class one day. I put in an application to take over her apartment through a sublease for 2 months. I was rejected because my score was 580 from maybe Experian or something, and then 600 for Equifax and TransUnion. I don't know. So I haven't had a credit card since 2013, and that's a whole other story if you want to hear that one, because I went through that stuff too. So my thing is, I got rejected, and they were not going to rent to me. And I told the company, her stuff is $1,600. I will just pay you cash to be able to take over her lease. I'm sorry, no, it was $895. So it was closer to $1,800, and they said no. They were not going to rent to me. And I'm laughing because I'm like, I own 4 units basically, and they won't rent to me. I said, this is funny. That's okay. So what we ended up doing, she gave me the keys. You're the only one who was serious, who stuck, at it, and I need to go. I'm going to California. I can't be here. I got to leave. And straight got an apartment. So we're going under the radar, which I don't recommend as much, only because when you're under the radar, being at the end of her lease, they were trying to send people in to see the place so they could rent it for next year, which made it very difficult to rent on the weekends and stuff, even though their last day of showing was like Friday at 5 p.m., I think, or something like that. But a lot of people might want to come in on Thursday or whatever. And how do you explain to an Airbnb guest, well, you're not really supposed to be renting here, right, but we flying under the radar. You know what I mean? If anything goes wrong, they could just find a way to make your life, not good. So I was just like, all right, it doesn't matter. I went ahead and did it. That's what they call rental arbitrage. Rental arbitrage is basically you're subleasing someone else's stuff. But ideally, you're going to get the permission of that person, which I did try to do. I put in an application, I paid the $35, and I got rejected. It just so happened that my rapport was strong enough that this girl decided, let me go ahead and go for it. She took a big risk because she does not know me, and she knew that my stuff got rejected. So if I'm a credit risk, most people treat you like a slave, and that's okay because I don't need credit because I bought all this stuff. Even though I got this stuff with the help of my credit, since then I've learned a lot of other ways that you can do stuff, because investors are investing in that particular property. No matter how much money you have or you don't have, if you find a property that has a high ARV, then they're like, well, my stuff is collateral. I have collateral because even if you jack this up, I still have something to fall back on. So if you want to start, I'd say just start. If you have your own place, you rent out a room. A lot of people start like that. Now, the problem with that for some people is, I don't know these jokers coming up in my house. Just like it's random. You like random strangers. My friend just told me 2 days ago, wait, Toya, so this couch we're sitting on right now, you let people stay on this couch? And you in the house? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, you crazy. Mm-hmm. But I'm not broke, so, you be crazy, you can be broke. You know what I'm saying? I told her, I said, we had Arnold Classics weekend, which if you're not familiar, here in the city of Columbus, they have all the muscle in the world pretty much comes to one central location at the Columbus Convention Center, which it was canceled this year for obvious reasons, the pandemic and things. But 1 year, I had 2 grown men on my couch. Yes, they slept on the couch. They don't care. They're trying to save money because it could be an expensive weekend. And 2 grown men in the other bedroom and me in my house. I call my grandma, mom, yeah, such and such, and Simon and David and such and they're on the couch and they're, oh my God, you staying in my house? Did you lock your doors? I'd be like, nope, I did. I just messed with them. But that's the whole thing. I've had perfect strangers, but here's the deal. Once you drive into my neighborhood, if you had any ill intentions at all,
you go away.
They go away quickly because you have no idea what you just drove into. Like, oh my God, were we tricked? We was bamboozled. This ain't even what they posted. Like the house itself looks exactly like the picture. But when you pan the rest of the street, you're like, oh, what the heck happened down here? And so people immediately, I'm telling you, if they have any ill intentions, they straighten right up like, we better be on our best behavior because I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So, but then in the end, they usually like, oh, it's a sketchy looking neighborhood, but you had a fantastic time. Toya was great, blah, blah, blah. So that's my description because I know there was that question asked. But I'm answering a bunch of others that if you want to start, you just start. If you want to give your excuse not to, then you'll do that. And that's fine too.
So subleasing, in a sense, so I'm hearing that you can actually possibly go on Craigslist or go someone that's willing to sublease their apartment right now and they're willing to get out of it. Mm-hmm. You can potentially just walk into that situation.
Yeah.
And take over and do your Airbnb thing, right?
Yes.
And what about the technique of what I call arbitrage is when you go to a property manager, like the units we have, is like, somebody own them already and we just going straight up like, hey, we have business, we do property management. You're like, hey, I do Airbnbs already and I would like to Airbnb this unit. Can you just be straight up with them? I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Have you had success doing that?
Yes. So that was just my first rental arbitrage 2-monther. Like it was just a teaser just to see. And I learned a lot from that. So when I did meet Noble and I met his partner and everybody, it was like, okay, Toya, these 2 units opened up. They're being newly remodeled. We can do rental arbitrage. And I'm just going to be honest with you. When they told me that price tag was like $1,000
Yeah, $1,000 a month. Yeah.
I was like, for the rent? I don't even pay that for my mortgage. I got 2 units for half the price. Now I'm getting 1 unit for double? Like, no, them numbers, my calculator don't like that. I was like, no. But when I saw the place, I was like, oh, well, Toya, open up your mind. Maybe you can make $4,000 a month. Perhaps not. We signed that lease November 1st. I was like, oh, no, it's probably already, and I'm not even going to go into details, but I was just like, oh, Lord. Okay. But then this year, in March, we got a guest group, and it was like 10 men.
Yeah.
And they were willing to pay.
Mexican family, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a crew.
Spanish family, yeah. They
came, and I swear to you, because I co-host properties in the Ozarks. So in the Ozarks, right off the lake, people are paying $500 and $600 a night, and that's normal. But they also have 20 people in there, they're probably splitting it, so it comes out the same as these. So when I see $2,000 and $3,000 for like 2 days and 1 day and 3 days, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But I saw $32,000 pop up. And I thought it was a mistake. Like, I screenshot it. I sent it to Noble. I sent it to his partner. I was like, there's 32. And I looked, and when I looked at which Airbnb they were asking for, it was ours. Right. And I'm saying ours because there's different ways you can post. You can post as an entire home where you don't enter the property after they get it. You can post as a private room where you're a roommate or you're a housemate, and they have their own room, and usually I give them a lock and key. So they can never say I went in their room and took anything or anything like that. Then you have the shared room, which is just an open space, usually people who like miss their plane or whatever, they'll crash overnight at 2 in the morning or whatever. So that's the other way. The way I did it though, in Columbus market, I don't know if it's just I'm not looking, but then I started paying attention. There are groups that need more space. 11 people, 15 people. We couldn't accommodate them by ourselves as a separate unit.
Right.
Like I got 5 beds and they got 4 beds or whatever. It comes, 5 beds. And because 2 of mine are futon. So, but together, we can accommodate groups of 10 to 15 to 16 people. Right. So what I did was I combined our 2 units. Okay, so we have, the titles, you sent them the?
Some of them probably do.
Okay, so I'm a theme person. I create experiences within my Airbnb. So there's always a theme attached to it. So this one in particular, I am House of Music, and they are House of Movies. Right. And they're side by side in a 7-plex. So right. We're 2 units side by side. So what I did was I called it When Music Meets Movies. And you can rent both spaces together. And only one common wall separates you, but you can go out the back door and go hang out on either side. You can come out the front. But we have guitar in one. You can play it, a keyboard, a violin, a lot of movies on their side, you know what I'm saying? And then all of, it looks like the director's cut when you first walk in. You feel like you're in the studio, you know what I'm saying? So it's an experience, because Airbnb does have Airbnb experiences. So we try to get a higher price point by creating an experience within the Airbnb. So when I posted that, and they took it, they wanted it for 5 months, all the way till September, and it was $32,000, and I was just like, everything that we went through since November, this was all worth it, and I will stay and renew this lease. This is awesome, So I was really excited, because you might get stuff like that if you get creative, like we did. So
that was dope. That was a lot of game. I hope y'all got that. That's a lot of game. So the different ways you can rent your Airbnb, from a shared common space, somebody that's missing their flight that just needs somewhere to crash for the night, to you get your own room, you get your own key, to the whole house, or to combining properties if they're right next to each other. That's at least 4 different strategies right there in itself. But you gave us something else too, which I was going to hit on. You mentioned that you co-host. So not only are you having your own Airbnbs, whether you own a property or you go to a property owner and you say, hey, this is what I do, or you go into a sublease situation and this is what you do, which those 3 different strategies right there as well. you now can co-host. What's that about?
Okay. So I'm a host,
Mm-hmm.
and then I meet Noble.
Yeah.
And Noble's like,
I don't want to do no work.
I don't want to do no work,
I don't-
and even if I did want to do it, I don't know what I'm doing. So,
Right.
what you got? So instead of having him doing the hosting, I end up doing the work, and I have a tiered co-hosting
Package.
sheet that I pay, a package that I give them, and I'm like, well, I can do this for 10%, I can do this for 15, or I can do this for 20. It's the same way most people tier their stuff, and they just keep adding to the package. And at the 20 percentile bracket, I'm pretty much handling everything. Anything Airbnb, if something breaks down in the house and it's affecting the guest, I will send you a message here, your maintenance crew, whoever you got on staff or whatever. If you don't have one, then I will find one. And usually in the beginning, because I've been here so long, I have a lot of like handymen or cleaners on call for different things in case someone else bails out or I just forgot, oh shoot, there's a checkout today. And I've done that before. No, you guys got a cleaner? So my co-hosting is to help you get your feet wet and get off the ground. Some people just need the co-hosting for like a month, 2, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing them, I'm giving you all of what I use. I've created, it's 7 years of experience wrapped up in, they have this little saved response section on Airbnb's platform. And so everything from the first time they inquire, you know, top of the morning, Noble, welcome to Airbnb Columbus. In answer to your inquiry, blah, 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 whatever they're asking. And I already, since we know pretty much what the questions people are going to ask, you go to the save response, you put it in there, you put their name in there, and you put the date at the bottom. If it happens to change just a little bit so it looks like you're actually talking to them and it's not a template, you change a few little things here and there, but it's so quick and easy. I mean, it's straight like McDonald's. You can teach whoever the system and they know exactly. And then when they're during their stay the next night or the next day, hey, how was your first night? You know, let us know if there's anything that we could do that'll make your stay excellent. Then the last night, it's just like, okay, the night before, hey, these are the checkout instructions. We hope you had an excellent stay. If there's anything broken or missing or anything like that, let us know. And we will send someone in so that the next guest doesn't experience this, blah, blah, blah. So it's a whole system there. And to be a co-host, because that's probably your next question, how am I co-host? Co-hosts usually get their credibility from their hosting. So what you want to do is kind of get hosting under your belt, which is practice. It's always the best. Practice on just doing a shared room. Because I'll tell you what, I have my shared room, I have them at 1 night minimum, 3 nights maximum, because it's on my couch. I call it the short stop. Basically telling you, you're going to stay here for a short period of time and you're getting out of here because I want to watch my TV on my couch. So, because I see a lot of people, they're trying to book a week and a month because the price is like $25 a night. I'm like, no, Joker, you got to leave. It's 2 nights, 3 nights, that's it. But I noticed with the short stop or the short stays or the shared stays, they ask for the spot that day or that night, and they're all last minute. So that's how you can just start to. But you believe me, going through this, I'll tell you all the little nuances and what to watch for if people are local, if they just created an account yesterday, you know, that kind of stuff, because a lot of times that means party. You know, people, Columbus, Ohio, joined August 2020, you know, and then some, because you can't see their photos anymore before they're booked because Airbnb is trying to get rid of that type of bias. But you can tell from those clues they don't have no reviews or they have a negative review, and that's just when you say, top of the whatever day, Noble. Welcome to Airbnb Columbus. Unfortunately, we are unable to accommodate your stay here, however, and you can look up other places to send them to, or you don't look up other places to send them to because you're like, they about to jack up somebody's house and I'm not going to be responsible for that. So good luck finding another Airbnb that can accommodate you last minute. And, you know, so, yeah.
I got you. So it's template orientated, right? Get your practice on yourself. And then as a co-host, can you actually co-host people that live in different parts of the country? Do you physically have to be there to help somebody go through this process? And for me to be a co-host, which means do I have to be there?
No, and I'll tell you this. This is what I did.
Virtual co-hosting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my first co-hosting experience was actually my mom and my grandmother. Did practice. My mom and my grandmother, I did fly over there, but I was visiting them anyway. So we got this space together. It just was more excuse to go visit them because I see them like once a year, maybe twice. So it was good because they had asked me, you know, Toya, you have a duplex? They live on the other side as an entire home. You live on the other side. So you have a wall, you have a separate key. You don't have to have them in your space. Whereas we have a house. And yes, we have our house kind of divided in half where there's private bathroom and all that stuff on their side, but they got to be in the space with us. Now, remember, this is pre-pandemic, so they're going to be in the space with us, so their concern was more of like, are they crazy? Or am I going to act crazy because they stupid, you know? So that's when I decided, oh, is that your reason why you don't want to do it? I went ahead and added a private room and a shared room in my side. And my quarters are way closer because they have bigger houses than I do. And so then I'm like, okay, someone stayed in my private room, someone stayed in my shared room. You guys ready to start? Oh, that's why you have that personality. I was like, oh, y'all just give me excuses. See, I told you I'm an excuse buster, so I'm going to give you ways out of it or into it. And if you want to stay out of it, that's the choice that you made. So finally they went ahead and gave in, and both of them did, the private rooms and all that other stuff. So they did that for a while, but of course now nobody really wants to, not nobody, because I do have friends who still are doing the private and shared room. So that's one thing. So I did go there, but that's just because of my family. A new co-host that's not related to me and actually spawned from a place that I co-host here. I actually did go out there, but that was just me because I needed to get the lay of the land. And I was invited too, so I was like, cool. Went out, saw all 4 lakeside properties. I don't know anything about boats and jet skis except that what they look like, but as far as how they operate and you know, what you got to do, and I was just like, I didn't realize what I was getting into when I was getting into these properties. I'm learning, so it's awesome. I love learning. But I went out there also because I do interior decorating, and there was 2 particular properties I knew I could upgrade and get more money from them. So I did that. But yes, you can co-host people across anywhere, really, because all it takes for you to have open lines, basically Airbnb, you can, as a host, you can send a request for a co-host, and an email will come in and says, such and such wants you to host them or co-host them. Mm-hmm. Do you want to? Yes. And then now you're co-host. So you can only see so much stuff as it pertains to their Airbnb, but depending on how much they want you to do, that's the access that you have. Well, people want me to do everything. So now I have access to most things except for like the payments and all that stuff. You'd actually have to log into their account to go into that. And that's a great safeguard because you never want to be, as a co-host, hit with, you went in my account, you took my money, you know, all that. Nope, I'm just a co-host, so I can only see what the guests are sending me. And whatever they send me, I can send it to you, I can screenshot. I'm a big fan of screenshotting and photo gridding. You can get so many photo grids and screenshots, but it's always going to be evidence that I did my job, and there was nothing else that I could have done at that point. So yes, to answer your question, you can co-host anywhere. I can co-host in India. I could. I just have to make sure that whoever's there is a reliable cleaner. I have to make sure that whoever's there is a reliable maintenance guy, you know, those kind of things. So you do have to have a good network. And it starts with the host. The host lives there. They probably lived there all their lives. So have them say, okay, you guys, you need to get the cleaning done. We need to get this done. I'm not flying out to India to make sure stuff is done because it's not going to be lucrative for either of us. So, yes, everything's possible and everything's negotiable. That's what I'm saying.
So you can co-host. Y'all can co-host. Don't have to be there. And we at 12:53 before we can get to some Q&A, and somebody got a question for you. Mm-hmm. So you set up tiers as a co-host, right? So now that's different ways you can make money, right? Because you can bring somebody in, handle their things if you're one of those management type of people. But then you also incorporated, or that's inside of your tier in a sense. Your tier also incorporates, hey, I'll actually stage this place for you. I'll get the bed, I'll get this, and I'll get that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can do interior decorating, in a sense. You come up with the whole, and the theme is ingenious, too, because it's different. You know what I mean? Like our place, like, people love it, you know, both of them. It's a house of music, and you got a whole Marilyn Monroe room that's dedicated to it. Another bedroom is the mob room, or, you know what I mean? It's just, it's dope, you know what I mean? Her bathroom is Prince, it's purple, you know what I mean? And it's like super dope. So those are different ways you can make money, co-hosting, tiering, and then filling the service in and whatnot. Even possibly recommendations, right? Because there's some business that you have where I may say, hey man, my man got a property. Then my man got a property here, but then he got a property in Cleveland. So now she goes up there and she's got 2 properties there, and he way in Seattle, and he ain't never got to come here because she's here, but she really ain't got to go. You know what I mean? So it's really dope. It's really, really dope. A question for you is, how has the corona pandemic affected Airbnb for you?
So I'll say it like this. I'm going to make this answer short because I know we've run out of time. You guys have other Q&A. You remember when I said that okay, let me say it like this. I got my longest, highest yielding, most amount of guests booking in the pandemic. March 5th to September 5th or something like that, whatever it was. That's when they booked. And I'm saying ever. I've done this since May 2014. That was the highest yielding, longest stay with the most people, which, you know, during a pandemic, you're not supposed to have a lot of people, more than 10 and all this other stuff. And they booked for 12 initially, ended up with 10, but that's how that worked out. And to be totally upfront and honest, they didn't stay, but not because of the place, it was because of the neighborhood.
Right.
So you will get those things. They probably stayed about a month, and that's because of my urging. And it saved them money. So once they got here and they started looking around and they found other apartments and things were happening around that neighborhood, I was like, I do not want to be responsible for nobody being so uncomfortable that something pops off
right.
and then there's an issue. If you're not comfortable, then I'm not comfortable either. So we actually let them out of that. But that's how it affected me. And it didn't even matter. As soon as they left, we got people. It's not what you got to watch when you're watching the news and things. And Airbnb's not doing well, and this, that, and the other. Remember what I told you, Pastor Rob Parsley said? What are you going to do with the recession? What are you going to do with the pandemic? Not participate.
Right.
So
this has been your best year. 6 years in the game. This is.
Yeah, in 2020, I would say, because that happened in my rental arbitrage. This is actually my first official year in rental arbitrage. So yeah, and where I live, rent, just to give you an idea, the rent around there, it's probably coming up to like $600 if you did your place really nice, but back in the day it was like $400, $450, $500. So I get $1,600 a month for one unit. That's 896 square feet. So normally you can only get up to $600. So you do the math, but that's where I am.
And you have what's considered to be property in the hood, right? So you got in the hood property, and then you have one that's $1,000 a month that's double where you at, right? In the so-called gentrified area, up and coming, because it's still got elements of hood fights and stuff over there too.
Right.
But it's by the hospital, and it's a desirable area. If you had to weigh the two, in a sense, not which one's better, but does your so-called low-value property perform just as well as your newly, highly renovated property, or better?
The one that I started with 7 years ago performs better because it performs better in that because the mortgage is lower, and it performs better because I get more money from it. I don't know what that is. You know, I do. Let me not say that. I do know what it is, and I'm going to give you a trick. I'm going to give you 2 tricks. When I first started, the main reason I did not want long-term stays, like a week or 2 weeks or a month, because I didn't want anybody to be in the neighborhood long enough to hear gunshots. Honest to God. That's what I was thinking in my head, like, if they're only here for one night, they can't really, you know what I mean?
Right,
it just might not be that night, so, 2 nights or whatever. But I've had people, they wrote straight on their review, like, you can come here for maybe 1 night, 2 nights might be pushing it. Don't come at night, because I was solicited twice. They didn't say what they were solicited for, but I already knew, from the prostitution to the weed and everything. Right. I just knew my neighborhood. I was like, okay, yeah, I can't even, what can I say about that? Right. So my strategy, one, was only book 1 and 2 nights, 1 and 2 nights. 1 month, I think I made like $3,000 in the one unit. because I had one night, two nights, and I was doing the cleaning, so I didn't have to pay my $50 cleaning fee to somebody else. So you think about it, if I had like 15 cleaning fees, you know what I'm saying? So that pushed me over. I probably had like $2,400 in the booking, and then $600 I saved by doing my own cleaning. And I live there. So what else am I doing? I don't work a job. This is what I do. So while I'm cleaning, I'm listening to tapes and whatever else, real estate or what have you. So that was my strategy. And the way it worked out for me, and the other thinking that I had of that strategy, not just so that they won't hear guns and stuff, it was I wanted to get as many reviews as possible, because here's the thing. When somebody comes to Airbnb, you do it, I do it, Noble does it, everybody does it. All things being equal, when you're looking at somebody's property, you're going to look at the reviews. How many reviews do they have? If someone has 100 and someone has 300 and someone has 3, you might not know that the 100 or 303 all had the same amount of nights booked, but it doesn't matter. In your brain, you're like, oh, this person's got 300, I'm going to go with this one right here. I'm going to go with the 300 because they had more people staying there. It's just what we do. Amazon, we've been trained. Amazon, eBay, when you look up an item and this one got like 2,000 some odd hits and it's 4-star, and someone else got 200 hits and it's a 5-star, you're like, let me go over here to this 2,000. For 2,000 people, 10 times the amount over here. So that was a strategy that served two purposes. It allowed them to hear the riffraff nonsense stuff that was going on in my neighborhood, and it allowed me to have as many reviews as possible. So that brings me to, when you guys are starting your Airbnbs, ideally you do like 1 and 2 nights. Get those reviews up. Airbnb's SEO or their algorithm, in the first 5 weeks, this is actually a client who told me this, he did that kind of research. He said in your first 5 weeks, you need to get at least 5 reviews, because if you do that, then you will keep yourself up at the top as far as when people are searching you, and they'll see you. So the more bookings that you have, the algorithm automatically pushes you up to the top, and you have to be quick on your responses. They have something called a response rate. So you want to make sure you're keeping your response at 100 by responding to people in an hour. Even if it's just like, hey, how you doing today? Send. You've already responded. Even if you don't have a response for what they're asking, just say, hey, we will get to your question. We want to make sure we answer it thoroughly, so we're going to go ahead and answer you in a couple of minutes or an hour or whatever. We want to make sure we have everything together. So that was one of the things that I did, very, very short stays at that place. This place that we have is $1,000. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, when November comes, I'm gone. I'm done with that place, because the other property that we didn't talk about, that's been sitting there. That's a whole other story we won't get into. We don't have time. But when that one's up, I'm going to be renting all 3, maybe even 4 units, and put that on the market to attract bigger groups. Because when we get a big group, and we've got a few, I sent them to Noble, 2 nights, $700. What? And we split it. So, but that's 2 nights. I mean, that's paid for a third of the rent over there. It's paid for almost all of my rent over here. So now that I can do it where the mortgage is low, my profit margin is way, way higher when I can put all 3 of them side by side. So that's the awesome part. And it's my own property. I don't have to ask people, because at one point we had to ask to put AC in the window because there wasn't no AC, and they were like, no, we're about to put central air in. I was like, what do we do in the interim? These guys are burning up. You're about to make me lose our clients because you don't want to put AC because it's not aesthetically pleasing. You know what else is not aesthetically pleasing? Is people fainting in the house and heat stroke and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just nice, because when you do have your own space, you don't have to worry about all these rules and stuff. You can do what you want. But to not excuse yourself out of not doing it, I'd say start somewhere. So.
Gotcha. And I heard something else, and I'll ask you these questions and we'll wrap it up. And if you got a question, you can drop it in the chat. When you mentioned the cleaners, right? I mean, that's a possible another way as well, where, you get into this management aspect, and you may have cleaners who do it for whatever price, and you set a set fee to your host, who you co-hosting with. You may say, hey, we're gonna set the cleaning fee for $100, and it may just be $75, and you just made $25 off of it or something. My point is, there's ways where you could make some money. You know what I mean? And I know we've just hooked up with some nice Spanish people that, do their thing and whatnot. And everything's negotiable, as you said, you know what I mean? But that's a potential avenue where you can make some money. Put a question in chat. What will be your top 3 personal business rules, philosophy for you? Your thing that you live by. What's your 3 things?
Top 3 personal business philosophies?
Yeah, like that you live by, whether it be on time or whatever.
Okay. These are the first 3 that popped in my head. Remember I told you the pastor said, don't participate?
Mm-hmm.
Don't participate in people's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. Decide what you want to do and make it a goal and get it done. Don't find excuses to not do it. So don't be blaming the pandemic, because it's really easy to do. It is. But it's also easy not to do.
Mm-hmm.
The Slight Edge. Read that book. That's a good one. So don't participate in that. The other one came from another pastor that I was at Columbus Christian Center, so Pastor David Forbes. He said, when you ask somebody something and they tell you no,
Mm-hmm.
it just means you asked the wrong person. And I said, look at that. And quick example of that was my Verizon bill shot up back in 2003 when I was with these kids on this mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was using my phone because it was the only thing that was working. And even though you have to stand on the bench like this and lean over, act like an antenna, it worked. So I had roaming charges. I called the first representative. She had her attitude and told me, if you think it's fraud, you need to call the fraud department. I was like, okay, thank you, click. And I called somebody else because in my head, Pastor Forbes said, when you ask somebody, they tell you no, ask the wrong person. So I called somebody else, and I started brainstorming. I was like, how about, because you say I owe you $200, my bill's only usually $50. Why don't we just retroactively act like I had the plan where this is all covered, all the minutes I went over, and then I'll just pay you $80 a month. Yes, ma'am, we can do that. Thank you, Jesus and everybody else. And that's how that happened. So, when they say no, you find another way, because it's always another way. Everything's negotiable. And that would be my other thing, is everything's negotiable. Everything is negotiable. When I tell you this because on Facebook Marketplace, first thing I ask, it's the best question to ask. Don't ask them what's the lowest you'll take. That's insulting. You say, what is your firm price? Mm-hmm. And when you say, what is your firm price? If they get insulted, that's on them. But some people, if it says $50, they say $50. Understood. Thank you. And I usually use GIFs, which make them crack up. And then they're like, oh, what were you offering? And I'm like, oh, well, your firm price is $50, and I didn't want to insult you. So, thank you for posting. Send. Oh, well, if you buy it today, we'll take $30. So your firm price wasn't $50. You see what I'm saying? So everything's negotiable. You just have to have enough confidence in yourself to negotiate that.
Gotcha. Jen had a question. If you don't mind sharing, how much did you make in those 2 months of rental arbitrage?
Oh, in the 2 months of rental arbitrage, we lost. Well, I shouldn't say we. Someone I partnered with, he actually did he paid for the rent. Mine was more sweat equity, where I got all the furniture and all the furnishings, but the way I shop, I probably broke even or maybe made a little. So, because then you think about it, when rent is gone, it's gone. Remember I told you the $22,000 in rent I spent in 6 years, I can't see that anymore. But the furniture that I bought, most of that furniture is in the House of Music now. So I bought it for this place, but because I do brand use anyway, I was able to use that. So that'd probably be a question for him away on that. But, he's recovered it since then because we still work together on other things. So you're going to lose some in some aspects and you're going to gain some in others. The biggest thing is we probably would have made on that, but one of the people who asked to rent wanted the rent for a month, and I did not feel comfortable allowing him to rent for the month because I knew every week the property management was going to be coming in there and checking on everything. So we probably at that point would have broke even. Honestly, this is the thing that I believe this. There's a rental arbitrage man. His name is Sean Rocky Jeech. Airbnb Automated. If you want to know how he does it, he has like 70-something, probably 80, 90 videos by now, but he put it in order like a university, and you can watch. In one of the videos, he states, if you're going to do Airbnb, your break even, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you can do in 6 months, and that's when you can start to profit. Because you need at least 6 months for this stuff to marinate, right? You got to account for the cost of furnishings. You have to account for the cost of just mistakes. You have to count the cost when people cancel last minute or whatever. So if I had, say, 6 months, and I wasn't like sneaking around, it would have been easier to make that money. So I really was just trying to get my feet wet just to see what it felt like to rent someone else's space. And then I realized, yeah, you really need to talk to the property management. They really need to agree like this, like we did with the current one, and be on board so that you're not sneaking around, because that's the worst. If not only you're doing something new, which is not technically new to me, but it was because it wasn't my space. So when I go to do stuff, I have to actually ask permission to do it now, whereas before I just did it. And then that takes time because you got to wait for them to respond, all that stuff. So just in general, so you know, Airbnb, you can be a host. You definitely want to be a host if you want to do anything else. You can be a co-host. You can do interior decorating, and that can go off into staging people's properties who aren't in Airbnb. The other thing you can pitch people, which I've had with the people he was talking about, his friends that have Columbus and Cleveland and Seattle property. I told them, if you're spending, you know, $1,200 to $2,000 for 45 days of staging, and they snatch back all the furniture, I can get that done for $2,000 the staging. We just add real beds and stuff. That's going to cost you a little bit more, but those foam mattresses are all of like $200 and $300 on Facebook Market, brand new. So you can do that, and while you're waiting for your property to sell, because it's just not the market, you're not getting the price you want, you can Airbnb it, and that's what we're doing. So they are not losing anything because they're Airbnb-ing their property up until then. And the nice part about Airbnb your property while you're waiting for it to sell in the market is that you are building a portfolio. And so anybody who wants to buy it, you don't limit yourself to just first-time home buyers. You are opening yourself up to investors and other Airbnb people who want to Airbnb it. And you can, I don't know how the transfer goes as far as like transferring your guests to them or however that works, but it's almost like you're selling a business. So if your property was at $200,000 and now you have this Airbnb in it, you do a valuation like, well, I know how much we made this year and this, that, and the other. So instead of selling the house for $200,000, I'm going to sell you the house with the attached business with all of our credential there for $250,000. So you just made $50,000 more. There's just so many ways and strategies that you can use for any of these platforms. Airbnb just happens to be one of them.
Right. And are you continually seeking Airbnbs via rental arbitrage? And the name of that guy again?
Oh, the name of the guy, his name is Sean. I think it's S-E-A-N. Mm-hmm. And Rocky Beach, it's not spelled how you think. So just look up Airbnb Automated because he's all over there. So that's the guy from Airbnb Automated Rental Arbitrage. And then am I looking for other?
Are you continually seeking Airbnbs via
rental arbitrage? Uh-huh. Not necessarily as a host where I got to go and put our company name on there and whatever, but as a co-host, I'm open to it because the rental arbitrage, like I'm going to let that rental arbitrage go because I tried it. It was cool. But now I'm going to be opening up that second duplex. So I need to put all my time, energy, and effort into that because that street has work to do. And it's just not, I'm not willing to redo a Linden, which is where I am, another hood situation where literally you walk out on the porch. I'm just going to give you a visual. You walk out on the porch and you look to the left, it's hood. It is. It's a corner store and whatever else going on over here. And then you look to the right, it's all good. That's where the hospital is and stuff. So it looks like a imaginary line that split the street right where the building is. And it scares a lot of people off. Believe me, nobody wants to park on that street. It's too fast and busy.
Super busy.
Nobody wants to park on that side street because they can't see their car, you know, those kind of things. So even though it's gentrifying and it's cool, the rent's also going up. You know, they're going to charge us another, I don't know.
$75 or something?
No, $200-$300, I don't know. They did a lot of renovation in there. So at one point, I'm sure it'll be great, but I'm good. I want to go back to my hood. We have too many duplexes that need help that I can buy up for way less than I'm paying over here. So that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't put a dollar towards it either. Like, it's paid for itself. That's it. So the good thing is that didn't come out my pocket anymore on that particular unit. But, you know, that's how the game is.
It's your first year, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's an infant. When you have a baby, okay, you cultivate the baby for 9 months in your womb, right? So technically the baby's a year after 3 months on Earth. Technically, that's how the Chinese do it anyway. So, and that's when they say life starts, although we haven't, you know, we're not going to get into that. So anyway, and so you can't expect the baby, you know, they're barely 1 year old on Earth, and you're like, come on, why can't you cook the dinner? Why can't you run up some steps, you know? The baby's the Airbnb, and you're like, you're supposed to be performing. It's just like, but you don't know what you're doing as a mama. You know what I mean? You are a brand new mom as the baby is brand new. So allow yourself the time to be new. Ask all the questions, research different things, you know, be a student, not a follower, you know, take in, when they eat the meat and throw away the bones and stuff like that type of stuff, just get a feel for it and don't quit on yourself too easily, because Kiyosaki said something really good, and I'll end here if we don't have any more questions, but he basically said in an interview, you know, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So what do you say to the person who's trying to create a business at this point? And he's like, well, what I say to them, well, what I do is I would start 10 businesses. Because if you tell me 9 out of 10 fail, one of them's bound to make it. I said, that is ingenious. But how many people think that way? Because they're just thinking, I got to do 10 businesses? Forget it, I'm not doing one. I'll stay over here at the job and just keep complaining type stuff. So,
Right. So let me ask you this in closing, a few things. Your favorite personal development and or business book, why, final comments, and contact information. Somebody want to get a hold of you to get started. Go ahead.
My favorite personal development or business book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot that I haven't read yet. So off the top of my head is the one that I had mentioned, The Slight Edge.
Slight Edge.
Mm-hmm. Because essentially what it says is there's a diagram in there where it shows on the graph it's going straight. No one's ever really just going straight. You're either going down or you're going up. Mm-hmm. You either did what you were supposed to do that day or you didn't. Mm-hmm. And so it's this constant fight to keep doing what you're supposed to do on the daily, because they tell you in a 24-hour period, it's like a pie chart, your life, and you divide it into 3. And you got 8 hours you can do sleeping, 8 hours to work, 8 hours to whatever you want. And that 8 hours to whatever you want is what makes a difference. Because some people push that 8 hours to 10 and sleep 6 hours. And they push that other work to whatever, because work is just paying the bills. Their legacy building and all that stuff, they make their chart half, 50%. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that discipline that you have to have. And so that book shows you how to be that and why winners win and why losers lose. Not because they're losers. They're not losers. It's just that they haven't done the things that, the work, the discipline. It's hard. It's easy. We do it all the time. I do it too. You know, you start a workout program and you're all gung-ho, you're doing well, and then one little glitch trips you up. And you're like, it was a big old mountain. And people sometimes look at what you tripped on. It's like, girl, there's a pebble on the ground. What's wrong with you? Because you don't want to do it. It's the behavior change is the hardest thing ever. And, you know, they had that whole 21 days to make a habit and 42 to make a lifestyle. Man, we start over so many times. How much pounds has everybody lost? Thousands. Because they lose it and they gain it, and then they lose it and they gain it. You know what I'm saying? So I would say if you read The Slight Edge, that's helped me out a lot. For sure. Oh, and of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you don't understand those concepts, it'll open you up to the other series of all those books. So. Gotcha.
And closing remarks and contact.
Closing remarks. Mm-hmm. Give yourself an excuse to win, not an excuse to lose. Nobody goes out on a soccer field or whatever field of life and says, you know what, today I plan to throw this game, unless they're making a lot of money throwing it. But other than that, you know, you go out to win every time. So give yourself the human aspect, because we are human, and allow yourself to make mistakes, because that's where a lot of the growth happens. Yeah. As long as you don't keep down, you know, keep, what they say, fall twice, get back up 4 times or something like that. So, but my contact information, I am LaToya King. I just go by Toya, and no relation. But maybe there's a relation, I don't know. When I met him, I was like, you got my name. But anyway, my contact, you guys can email me at Lili Properties, LLC, and that's Lili Properties, LLC @gmail.com. And that stands for Luxury Inexpensive Living Investment Property. So that's my email account. My phone number is 614-205-7997. If you send me a text, it will get the fastest response, because I'm on my text. With the email, it might get eaten up by all the other email, and I might not see it. I don't want you to think I ever am ignoring it. But if you send me a text and then say, hey, I'm sending you an email, then I know I can reference and go look at it. And you can always call, but don't leave a voicemail, because it'll be a week or so and I'll finally get it. So a text is the best or you can contact me through any of the social media as well. That works, but ideally text message.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. All right, y'all. So we gonna get up out of here, man. I appreciate it. We see you later. I'm about to get out in the field. Y'all have a blessed weekend, week ahead rather. Yeah, that's it, man. Peace.